If you go just across Lennox Crossing, on your right was the entrance of the Canberra Golf Club. Now at lunchtime you had to be careful that you don't just walk slowly, because every now and then a golf ball passed your head, you know. You had to be, and some did it on purpose. They yell, "Four, wang, shoo," and you see one passing your head, you know.
I did play at the Royal Canberra Golf Club, and this would have been in the early 50s, and the first tee for the first hole was just down quite close, just behind where the Albert Hall is. That's where the first tee was, and it was a beautiful course. One stage you had to hit from the tee the next hole across the Mongo River. That was a bit of a challenge. It was a top class golf course, and one stage I saw Peter Thompson and Gary Player and doing an exhibition game on the course, and that was quite interesting. But yeah, so I played there for 3 or 4 years, because it then became part of the lake scheme, and when the engineering works for the lake scheme started late 50s, early 60s, that's when Royal Canberra had to close down and move over to eventually to Westbourne Woods, where it is now.
This is a golf course, right under the waters.
It goes under the water.
Yeah,
and
both
the race
sides.
Course over there,
yeah,
which was also the original the second golf course.
Yes.
The first one was where Canberra High School is. That's where White City Camp was.
And it moved later.
And Dad,
later
father,
to the race
when he was at Balmain Crescent, that's where he learnt to hit a golf ball. When he later became president and a long-term, what do they call it, a foundation president or whatever, not foundation president, life president, or life member, that's the word, a life member of the Royal Canberra Golf Club. And it was my father that was president at the time when this clubhouse was moved to, when the whole course was moved to Yarralumla.
It was just an integral part of our lives, you know. Every day it'd be through the cutting through and the greens, and of course they hit, I think it's the 15th that was on this side, they'd have to hit across and the kids would watch. And yes, and it was very profitable.
And my parents were always here, always, especially my father.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is that when this, what became the Royal Canberra Golf Club, women were not full members.
No,
they were associates. And of course they'd make the afternoon teas. And
oh, yes.
Oh, and the other thing is that when Clenzeldorf, when the K's moved back in here, actually in the it was 1854, I think, around about there that they came back then. But in the 1890s, they built a slab hut nearby, a house, and there was the big chimney brick, fireplace of brick, or no, it would have been stone, and
that
the clubhouse.
Yes,
the clubhouse incorporated it. Yeah,
Mum can well remember that. She said they used to have lovely roaring fires in it.
Yes, yes. So they're all of those.
It was very
things.
Comfortable inside. You know, the old floral designs, of course, of armchairs and which you sort of sank into.
The farm behind the old Albert Hall was named Clenzendorf, and it was named after a man called William Clenzendorf, who had the lease very early in the piece. The land was resumed in 1924 for the construction of a golf course which subsequently became the Royal Canberra Golf Course. And the Royal Canberra Golf Course had a fireplace with large flagstones, and apparently the flagstones came from the original house that was on that Clenzendorf property.
I think I certainly have mentioned it because it was so funny. They moved over to the one behind the Albert Hall. They just installed a new clubhouse with a lot of liquor Canberra Times reported that
Oh yes, I know.
a large quantity of liquor had been stolen.
I remember that.
A large quantity of, and they even listed it. And then the Canberra Times reported the article as saying that the police expect to have an arrest. They are on the trail of the Guglers. Gurglers, I don't know whether they wrote that deliberately or not, instead of burglars. They put gurgler. But that was those sort of things were highlights in Canberra, really. You know, that was something different.
I do remember the Royal Canberra Golf Club quite well because I went caddying on the golf course as a young boy. They had some competitions there at the golf course. Had to carry a fairly large bag. There were no buggies in those days, so to carry a pretty large bag all the way around 18 holes, some of which went backwards and forwards across the river. So there were a couple of holes where they had to hit from tee on one side of the river and the green on the other side. That was fairly close to where the old motor registry was, on the banks of the river.
I used to caddy from time to time at the Royal Canberra Golf Club, and on one occasion I caddied for Norman von Nyder, who was a famous South African golfer. I carted his bag around all day, and I got 10 shillings, which in today's term is about 10 cents. Yeah, that was the price of things those days. I mean, he wasn't very happy man, so he didn't give me any bonuses, but it was hard work. It's a long way around, and they've got every club you're allowed to carry, and we were only young boys. Yeah, there's no trolleys. You had to carry it on your back.
My stepfather, Dad, was in fact a keen golfer. He played at the Royal Canberra Golf Club, which is underwater, as we all know. It was a beautiful golf course, and he played quite reasonably, and he used to play some of the fond memories of the Canberra golf course. He used to play in the Easter tournament. It used to draw some quite good golfers from around the country. Kel Nagel, I remember him playing there when I was a boy, and when I was old enough, which would be my early teen years, I used to be able to caddy there at Easter, and I think they used to pay us about 4 shillings a round. I can't remember the actual value of lugging someone else's golf clubs for 18 holes. But the other fond memory of the golf course, not necessarily at Easter, it's a little chilly at Easter, and I can't remember the whole number, but one of the holes crossed the Molonglo River, and they had to hit across the Molonglo River, and lots of us kids used to dive for golf balls in there, which we could sell back to unsuspecting golfers as brand new balls or good balls. And again, 6pence to a shilling, I think, was the going rate for a used golf ball.
One of the activities for a lot of young people, including my brothers, they used to have a competition here every year, big golf competition, and they used to pay the young people to be caddies. That was a way of some of the young ones earning money. Another one was collecting golf balls, which they found. That was another little enterprise which a lot of the young fellows had. I wasn't into that much, but my brothers certainly were.
The golf course would be at the back of the Albert Hall where it is now, and it used to ride right round the back of the Acton cottages, didn't it? Yeah. And I know people that used to pick up golf balls, the people that hit, you know, and sell them back at Easter time. Sell them, they couldn't find their balls, but where they could be seen through the fence, where the green there, and they'd be missing, oh, can't find the golf ball, I have to get the other one. And at the Easter tournaments, they'd be buying back their golf ball they lost. Well painted, didn't we? We knew the people that did that. Yes, we did.
Shouldn't admit this, should I? That the balls used to, there was a flat area, then there was a hill. So, and of course, when they hit the ball from the first, they couldn't see where it finished. And of course we'd jump the fence and grab a ball and go for our lives. So I left the poor golfers a little bit worried, where's my ball gone?
We used to scavenge balls from the Molonglo River. There was a tee in the Royal Canberra that hit over the Molonglo. I think it was somewhere adjacent to the old the bridge that was there, the suspension bridge across the Molonglo River. It was washed away in one of the floods, one of the later floods, and it was replaced by a pontoon bridge built by the Army. And that's how they continued their golf game. They never replaced the suspension bridge. Was never replaced, but it was replaced with a pontoon bridge. And I think it might have been built by an engineering group from Duntroon.
The pontoon had all those big drums underneath it, and we used to swim there. And my dad used to always made sure that we could dog paddle so that at least you could be saved, because all the kids went down without parent supervision. Not because they were neglectful, just the way it was. The big boys or the big people would look after the little ones. The boys would wait for the ladies golfers to try hitting the golf balls across the river. And of course they couldn't make it, so they knew then they could dive in and get the golf balls, retrieve the golf balls and go and sell them or whatever they did.
Every afternoon from about September through to April, after school, shoes came off and we're down to the river where we were swimming. You know, there was a deep hole there and so on. And you'd watch the golfers hitting the golf balls across, and it's amazing how many go into the river when you're being watched by people. And of course we used to dive for them and sell them back to the golfers.
And I might add, my father used to curse them.
Yeah, yes.
Because he was a golfer.
Oh, yes.
And so was his father.
Yeah.
All their friends were golfers.
Yeah, well, my father was a golfer, and so I joined the Royal Canberra Golf Course when I was 13 years old. And so we hung around the pros shop and transacted the sale of golf balls with the Westlake kids, who were they had a monopoly on the swimming hole at the 13th hole. I remember it as a pontoon bridge. I think it was the 13th hole, and the back at a par 3, and the backdrop is Atunga Point, which is the next one westward of the yacht club, and the green somehow was lower than the tee, which was on the other bank. So you had to hit across. So you weren't hitting uphill, indeed, you hit across the river and down. But people find water hazards psychologically challenging, and more often than not the ball would be hit straight into the river, so just a pile of new golf balls there for the taking. The Westlake kids would essentially be lined up along the pontoon, sitting on the pontoon, or hidden in the bulrushes at the bank, the weeds, and pretty soon as the balls were hit in the drink, they were retrieved and thrown in a bucket and carted away. So you remember that. It was an idyllic little par 3 hole, really.
I'm certainly aware of at least one bridge that was there, and it linked, as far as I recall, some of the golf courses there. And there was one story told about a very senior public servant, this is in the early days of Canberra, who was a very keen golfer, and he'd been playing golf and he'd had a particularly bad day on the golf course, apart from the story, and was quite a laugh around Canberra, because Canberra in those days was quite a small place and everybody knew what everybody was doing. Anyway, he was seen to walk across the bridge and in disgust and anger throw his whole golf bag into the river, which was reasonably deep at that spot. got, and he then went off and stormed off, and about sometime later, about 20 minutes later, he was seen to be down negotiating with the Westlake boys who used to make a pocket money getting golf balls out of there, seen negotiating with them for them to retrieve his golf bag and clubs out of the river. And from all accounts, yes, they did retrieve it, but they certainly made a good amount of pocket money out of that effort. But it was quite a laugh around Canberra about this. I think he was a departmental head, but I can't remember his name.
I remember pretty well the last weekend that they were playing golf there pretty well. I wasn't caddying and I didn't play at that stage, but I remember when they stopped playing there and they demolished the clubhouse and built a new one over in where the course is now.
Before he went under the water, Mr. Stuart, my father-in-law, asked could they have the greens, the grass off the greens, and whoever was in charge said yes, you pick it up, you take it, you can have it. So the Edlingtons and the Stuarts and so on got their trucks together. They went over there and they took all those greens up manually, and took them out and to where the racecourse was being built out past Civic and at Lynham, and together they got truck after truckload of those greens and took them and put them in the saddling enclosures of the racecourse and all around there. That was a good story.